Jeremiah Owusu Koramoah was a star for the Cleveland Browns last year, and now the rest of the NFL is just seeing it. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Everyday crowd keeps growing and growing. Don't miss out on the party. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, kickoff to summer, and big downshift for everybody as transitioning into hopefully what turns out to be a great summer for everybody here in 2024. But Cleveland Browns and Locked On Browns, we never stop here. Jeremiah Owusu Koramoah was without a doubt one of the stars of the Cleveland Browns defense in 2024. We all got to see it each and every week. Just saw the development of a player like this in his third year. Somebody that the Browns obviously thought very highly of, drafted in the second round in, I guess that would have been 2021. Yes, 2021. And as the time he was a project as a full-time linebacker, played a little bit of everything at Notre Dame. Played some safety, played some monster back, played some linebacker. Hell, even rushed the passer at times for the Fighting Irish. And the Browns' goal was to turn him into a full-time linebacker. Pete Smith and I talked about this for years, just trying to find guys who are safeties, who are built like linebackers, and take them and make them linebackers. JOK was one of those guys. We never got true athletic testing numbers. JOK was a little bit limited during the draft process, but you saw there was an absolute nose for the ball. He understood how the game worked, but was just going to need some refinement and just more reps. And that's certainly what happened for JOK in 2023. And this is all stemming, if you saw, Brian Baldinger put up a couple of clips from, I guess it was the Jets game, the Thursday night game in 2023, and just some things that absolutely wowed him. There was the Jets sweep that he broke up. Basically, he had two linemen bearing down on him. One lineman tried to go, to one outside shoulder. The other lineman tried to go to the other outside shoulder. He kind of sideways himself, knife through, blew the play up. Another one, there was one designated lineman for him on a screen. He absolutely torched that. For JOK, it's just really, it's been a coming of age. And there's one thing, with football, and certainly playing in the linebacker position and playing so close to the scrum, the mess. It's, if you see it, you have to believe it and you have to attack it. You have a split second to react. I know it's there. I know what it is. I go. It can't be. I know. Just give me one more. No, that by that time, that window of opportunity for making that play is shut the heck down. And that was probably where you really saw the development of Jeremiah Owusu Koramoah last year. We all know about the amount of sacks he had for negative. I mean, the amount of tackles he had for negative yards last year. But that is the absolute sign of development, where the athleticism, the film study, the anticipation, the reading ability, it all comes together. And all of it's important. All four of them are vital. All four of them, you are a guy that can click in all four of those ways. You become, I don't want to use elite because I don't think we're there yet with JOK, but that's what puts you upper echelon. And it was certainly what you saw from Jeremiah last year. It was just the belief in himself. It was the belief in, the studying, certainly, film watching, and you just got to commit. And, you see so many linebackers who were good in college, great in college, and they just can't make that next step in the NFL. And some of it is, they were maybe athletic enough at the collegiate level, and they're not here, or they're not strong enough now in the NFL. They were strong enough in the NFL. And look, when you're there and it's, hey, if I'm wrong or if I'm off by one split second, I've got a 325-pound guard that is either going to drive me to the goalpost, or he's going to bury me Undertaker style, where I may not ever get out of the turf again. So it's really been fun. And Baldy's breakdowns were certainly great. And I think the Browns linebacking core overall is probably going to be the best since the Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski regime has been here. I think Jordan Hicks is going to be is probably vastly underrated. He's going to be your Mike. JOK will be your Will. Most likely, it'll be Devin Bush probably starting at the Sam. That's going to be a spot that's kind of up for grabs this summer. I'm sure Tony Fields is going to want an opportunity there. I guess we're calling him Bookie Watson, right? Is that Bookie Watson? I got to be honest, a name like Bookie and betting within the NFL, it's probably something I'd rather not even be involved with. But Bookie Watson apparently, and maybe who knows, maybe he gets a shot if he shows early that he can do this. Certainly had a big interception the other day in OTAs. But that's certainly the spot you're going to look at. But between Bush and Jeremiah Owusu Koramoah, I mean, just to add it up, you're going to be talking 230 to 250 tackles right off the book with those two guys. Hicks is a all-time 100 tackle guy. That's just what he does. And of course, with JOK, this last year should be the standard for what he is capable of. We're going to do an episode. We're going to get you out 2 episodes tomorrow. Mike Clay from ESPN, one of my favorite guys, basically gives you statistical output for every player on an NFL roster. So we'll go through that from the Browns tomorrow from the offensive side of the ball. We'll certainly do it from the defensive side of the ball. JOK is, basically predicted to have another monster year in 2024. The improvement of the defensive tackle play, JOK took advantage of that. The fear of the edge rushers that the Browns put out there last year, JOK certainly took care of that. And with all that going on, and JOK getting to play so much cleaner last year. And look, a lot of those plays he made, and a lot of it was on him. But the linebacker position, and certainly so much of it is predicated on what is going on in front of you. These guys got to man up. Look, you're going to get blocked, but you can't get thrown back 7 yards. You can't get pancaked. You can't get run over. You're supposed to, ideally, if it's a running play, is the guys behind you, ideally, are supposed to make the play. Your shot is to either beat the guy in front of you or dance with the guy in front of you and make the pursuit angles to the ball for the linebackers that much quicker, that much easier. And that's really what you got to see last year with competent interior defensive line play. That should certainly continue this year. With Hicks, paired with JOK, being nickel linebackers, most likely JOK, but you could keep Hicks on the field in dime situation. It's going to be a special group for this team in 2024. I really can't wait. And the fact that JOK is getting his flowers, and very, very soon, Jeremiah Owusu Koramoah is going to get that extension and get paid. Your latest Locked On Browns rolls on. Don't anybody go anywhere. It is winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Jeff Lloyd, we continue to roll on here. Your latest Locked On Browns. I appreciate you all for making the show your first watch every single day, first listen every single day. If you're not part of the YouTube everyday crowd by now, make a new plan, Stan. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. There's been a lot of talk, about what the Cleveland Browns are doing as far as kind of turning over the roster on the interior part of the offensive line. It's certainly needed, and this offensive line is going to start to probably go through some drastic changes next season, probably even more in 2020, from 2025 to 2026. You have your new coach, your new offensive line coach here now. And of course, it started with the drafting of Zach Zinter, and it's nice, knowing the way that Zach Zinter's season/career ended at Michigan. Ironically enough, against Michael Hall in the, of course, the big one of course, Ohio State, Michigan game. And you see that Zinter's already out there, and he's basically already on his path. So, he'll be as ready to go as the Cleveland Browns need him to go for training camp for summer. And then, of course, getting, whatever playing time he may see in 2024. There's been a lot of talk about undrafted free agent Javion Cohen. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the fact that Cleveland Browns committed $200,000 guaranteed to Javion Cohen. I've reached out and got a little feedback that the Browns staffers absolutely loved him. They just absolutely loved the tape. There were talks that maybe he didn't interview. And when they say didn't interview well, that's one thing that kind of usually irks me a little bit. Because you say didn't interview well. Well, there could be a million reasons for that. Is the kid just shy? Is the kid immature? Is the kid a better player than he is somebody that can handle the interview process? Or is he a kid that just absolutely was a jerk during the interview process and teams turn away? My guess is it wasn't the jerk aspect. It wasn't the disrespectful aspect. It wasn't like the, I don't have time to even be here aspect. It was probably one of those other aspects that the Cleveland Browns felt that, was something they could certainly work on. And when you're dealing with kids, you understand that, some don't mature nearly as fast as others do. I have a 17-year-old, I have a 16-year-old, my 17-year-old acts 40, my 16-year-old is actually like she's going to be 16 for the rest of her life. So, obviously the Browns felt heavily, in their thought process on Javion Cohen by offering him the $200,000 guarantee as an undrafted free agent. It's not unlike the Browns to commit money to an undrafted free agent or a decent amount. If you remember back in 21 as well, defensive tackle Marvin Wilson out of Florida State was a guy. But granted, that was nothing monetarily like what the Cleveland Browns just gave to Javion Cohen. I believe Marvin Wilson got like 35, 40K guaranteed. Didn't make the team. And honestly, the Browns probably should have kept him on the team, even if he didn't deserve it, and see if something could develop. Granted, Wilson right now is playing in the XFL, USFL, whatever. But $200,000 is a drastic investment into a player that you taking in the undrafted route. So I do believe the Browns feel that they have somebody that is going to be on this roster 2024 and beyond. If you're going to commit that type of money, you obviously believe that there is possibility that this guy could be a starter for you. We do not know when openings at the guard position are essentially going to come. We can all live in this lovely little world where we all think that Joe Bitonio will get to play for another decade. It's not true, but we can believe it. When you have players that are that good, that important to the city, have embraced the city, the franchise like they have, you never want to see them go. But Father Time exists for everyone, and everybody's time will come, certainly as an athlete. So, certainly consider there. And, Wyatt Teller, we'll see how it works out with Wyatt. When Wyatt is healthy, Wyatt is one of the best guards in the NFL. When Wyatt is dealing with, injuries, his game suffers. It happens to a lot of guys, happens to a lot of people in the NFL. It's just the way it goes. And unfortunately, when guys go out there and they're not 100%, some people basically still hold them to you need to play like you're 100%. And I get it. It goes with the business, but, to play in the NFL and not to be at 100% health, not that anybody is, but I mean, to be at like marginal where, hey, he might be able to go, he might not be able to go type of health, you're not getting the player that, you think, and you're not getting the best of said player. And it's one of the biggest things that happens within any fan base in the NFL is when a player goes out there and he's not 100% and he is critiqued heavily for it. It sucks. It really does. But, I understand why it happens. Do I understand, should it happen? No story, another day. But continuing with the Browns, interior depth reload, Jonathan Allen brought in, of course, now. And Brian Allen, former Michigan State guy, and he had a really, really nice run with the Rams and, missed some time. Somebody took his job and basically it was, well, he did the job pretty good. You're making pretty good money. And in that situation, the NFL's cheap man's going to win. And cheaper salaries usually always going to win. So it'll be interesting, certainly for Brian Allen and certainly Luke Whippler, because, they're both here. Luke Whippler in year 2. As you guys know, former Ohio State Buckeye. A lot of people felt Luke Whippler left Ohio State too early. And this past year, 24, should have been his draft cycle. You make decisions for whatever decisions you wish to make them. But Luke Whippler is in the NFL now, and right now could be in a real battle. Browns are not going to keep 3 centers. I doubt they're going to ask Brian Allen to learn another position, which means Luke Whippler could be learning to play other positions. But the problem is you have Zinter, you have Michael Dunn, you certainly have now Javian Cohen. So all of this it's become really deep on the interior. And, over the weeks and days of OTAs, and we'll get to OTAs in a little bit, segment 3. And then, of course, into training camp, into, divided practices with opponents that'll be coming up that week and certainly in the preseason games. Somebody's going to start to make some hay and somebody's going to start to separate themselves from somebody else. So for a lot of guys, this is going to be a tough spot. It's going to be a tough roster to make. We've said this a million times about almost every positional group on the Cleveland Browns right now. But it's going to be a tough roster to make, on the interior. They love Michael Dunn. Michael Dunn's making guaranteed money. Certainly have a high thought process for Zach Zinter, who was drafted where he was. Financial investment, at least for this year, into Javian Cohen. And then you have, you brought in a veteran like Brian Allen. You have the second-year guy in Luke Whippler. It's going to be a lot of battles on the Cleveland Browns offensive line this year and, in training camp and all that stuff. And it's going to be fun to watch, and certainly on the interior. Tackles, we know what 3 are here for now. Are the Browns maybe waiting for someone to just come in and say, hey, I need a right tackle. I will give you what you need to, take Jack Conklin to my team. I don't think the Browns would be peddling Jack Conklin by any means whatsoever, but I'm certainly thinking the Cleveland Browns would be listening to anybody talking on Jack Conklin. Jed Wills is going to be your left tackle this year. I'm sure that led to a lot of late nights with the Cleveland Browns front office about whether or not that was actually going to be the case. Over going into last year, certainly going into this year, what exactly their thought process was. But the Browns have a budding star at the offensive tackle position, Dawand Jones, and they've had to find a way to get him on the field. They just, granted, last year, and we always say, what do we say? Things sometimes find a way of, working themselves out. But at the time last year, the Browns didn't know exactly just yet what they had in Dawand Jones. He had an incredibly strong summer, but the Browns had not had him basically on the field yet. And, real regular season NFL games. And the second he got out there, it was a fish to water. He was just ready to go. Certainly a lot of that, was due to Dawand and his commitment to obviously just getting himself even better and better as he left Ohio State and graduated into the NFL life. I'm sure Bill Callahan certainly had a lot to do with that as well. But Dawand Jones, he put it on himself. He absolutely put the grind to it. And he was a fantastic player for the Cleveland Browns last year. I expect that to be the case again this year. But, the Browns are going to need a spot for him to get him on the field. And the Browns right now probably have too many reserve interior offensive linemen on the roster. All stuff that, who knows, some things find a way to work themselves out. Or, you make a move. You never know. The Browns have a lot on their hands. And this is why you have OTAs. And certainly this is why you have training camp. And this is certainly why you have an exhibition season. We're going to continue on here, your latest Locked On Browns. Appreciate you all for sticking along for the ride. Well, we've got one team, the Boston Celtics, in the NBA Finals. We are waiting to see how it turns out between the Dallas Mavericks and, of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Game Times makes getting NBA tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time certainly takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. I love the fact that I can get the view from my seat within the app before I purchase. Number one, it gets me excited about going to the event. Number two, I want to CYA and make sure I get what I think I am getting. They have the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can get a cheaper ticket elsewhere. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute prices, lowest price guaranteed. Browns are back on the fields in Berea this week for OTAs. and we're going to get to that. Elijah Moore returned for anybody who was having, maybe panic attacks about that. Elijah Moore out there catching some passes today from Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson threw a little bit today, will throw on Thursday with the media in the house present. So we've made that progression to that. Everything a little bit you saw released today, Deshaun certainly looked good. Certainly velocity, all that type of stuff, able to throw the ball, to a pretty good distance. I would love for somebody to ask Deshaun Watson if he thinks he's ready to play in a game if there was a game today. If we're going to ask questions and try to find things out, if he doesn't answer it, it's fine. But let's ask better questions. There's so many questions that just take up time with the same people trying to ask the same dang question. Here's a simple one. Hey, Deshaun, if you guys were lacing it up today, you 100% you good to go? Simple. That's all you got to ask. Well, those are questions I want to hear. So Deshaun's certainly out there getting his work in. Elijah Moore back. Now, the talk about, this OTAs could be dying. And this is, probably on the heels of our good friend, J.C. Treader. And, J.C. Treader, this was something, that had been in the works for a while. And you heard Shelby Harris clap back today and basically say, I don't want this. And I'm not sure the NFL wants this. Look, the fact that we're all sticking to social media or whatever we can get to get any glimpse of what went on at Cleveland Browns OTAs probably tells you everything you need to know. The NFL, they absolutely try to sell you their product as a 365-day-a-year business. They don't want this month to be unrecognized. They don't want you watching baseball games. They certainly don't want you watching the NBA Finals and the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference Finals of the NHL. They want you fixated on your favorite NFL team 24/7 for every second you're awake. Heck, they'll find a way to put it in you while you're sleeping. That's the NFL. Don't put it past them. If they can put a chip in you, they're going to do it. My thing is, though, and I think the players need this, like say you kind of leave, if you're lucky, I'm sorry, if you're not lucky, you're leaving your team in beginning of January. And look, there's friends, you probably have friends on your team that you're close with, the guys that you live in the same area of the country with, or whatever that you're close with and you see probably regularly. But, if you're not really going to do OTAs, I want my guys together at some point. I want my guys spending time together, and it's bonding, it's hanging out. And look, when you're a millionaire and you play in the NFL, you really just can't hang out with Joe Schmo from Idaho down the street. It just don't work that way. You need to be around people that have the same pressures you do financially, athletically, being in the light all the time. So for me, it just, I don't know. I don't like it. I mean, but I will always, if it's something the players will vote for, I'll just sit here and shut up because, it technically at the end of the day, it's their call. But so many guys now, and if you're veterans, like the day your season is over, you've already got your training camp guy, like your training, off-season training folks who are setting up basically every second until you return to full-time football duties in whatever time in July you're reporting back to your team. So it changes up the entire routine. And look, athletes are creatures of habit. It is a big time thing. It really is. So leaving that, and now all of a sudden everything being a little bit different than it used to be. And now all of a sudden, you're not really doing any football activities with your teammates between April and June. Yeah, I get it where you train. There could be a quarterback there, certainly, or the training facility has somebody to throw to you. But if you're playing with Deshaun Watson, you should certainly be getting your time working out with Deshaun Watson. You go together like lemon tuna fish. You need to be working with your teammates. That's how you hone your craft as one. That's where your unity comes together. And look, these practices aren't crazy difficult in the NFL anymore. They are catered to be quick, condensed, get in great work, and get out as quick as possible. It ain't like the old days where they took the water away, or practice one sucked, so we're going to go to a second. I didn't like it. So, I mean, the fact that OTAs could be taken away, I'm not a fan. I'm just not. I need my football fix the entire year. I mean, I will still watch my Mets, even though they suck. They're asses whipped by the Cleveland Guardians. I get it. But I like that. But I need my football. And, I think all of us as football fans need our football. It's just something that kind of keeps you going. And, it kind of reminds you that, September's not too far away. Exhibition games are not too far away. I think if the NFL did away with OTAs, I think that gap, it's certainly going to hurt the product. There's no way it's going to help it. And I don't see any way the NFL is okay with that. The NFL never finds a way to hurt the product. They will shove it down our throat till we vomit it back up. But they will never, it just makes no sense. So look, the Players Association may find a common ground here where this can all work for everybody. But doing away with OTAs, for me, in my eyes, in my opinion, is a terrible, terrible idea. And as much as we're trying to rest the players need to be together. Locker rooms need to be together. And, these trips, and we go here, this, that, and the other thing. Look, you can do this. You can't do this forever. You can't have guys dropping $125,000 to take the team to Bahamas, whatever it is, whatever. That's why you have team facilities. Guys need to get their injuries checked up. Guys rehabbing from injuries need to get checked. Keep OTAs. If you want to shorten it, everybody's going to understand. I am Jeff Flood, your host here, Locked On Browns. Been here over 7 seasons. Guys, you guys know I was from 10 years old. I was a football junkie. You could never get enough of it. Led to a college football career playing wide receiver. I love being here with you all every single day. Like I said, we're going to get the Mike Clay shows in, the offensive statistics, the defensive statistics for 2024. We're going to do those for the next 2 episodes. I appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. If you've not joined the YouTube crowd by now, have your head examined, and please, of course, sign up and lock into the Locked On Browns. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB, not LOB. Let's go Browns.